Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. Patriots Against CPS Corruption invites you to attend our march for Texas children. DFPS has failed the families of Texas. The Texas Special Committee on DFPS has also failed the parents and their children. Time to make our voices heard and surround yourself with those on the same mission as you. Join us on the March for Our Children, September 21st, 2022, starting at 1 p.m. at 701 West 51st Street, Austin, Texas, 78751. I have a return guest on. I have Mary Kovacs from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, back on the show. She was last on July 6th, 2022, season 3, episode 72. We had discussed the red flags of narcissism and what parental alienation does to the children. But I have her back on today for an update of what happened in the past week, and I'm going to let her talk about it. So I welcome you back to the show, Mary Kovacs. How are you?
I'm very well, Marianne. Thank you so much for having me back. This is um, a very important part two that I think that parents out there would love to hear about.
Mhm.
Judges, other lawyers, they all need to understand that what I went through in the last 17 years needs to stop.
Mhm.
And I'm here to educate and allow people to use my story that fall into the same situation. So I'm so grateful
Mhm.
to be here.
I'm
The
glad to
trial
have
is
you.
over. I've I I had to stop it. I literally had to stop it. So as a good parent and in the best interest of our children, parents um, that are accused of high conflict um, cases is not that high conflict does not exist with two parents unless they literally are both abusers.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the only time you have two high conflict parents. But when you got parents like us that only see the best interest of the children, and we went in there with no guns and bullets, we went
Mhm.
in there for the children with love,
Mhm.
respect, and in the honor of the court system to help us to end the
Mhm.
conflict and go equal shared parenting 50
Mhm.
50. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what was my plan when I walked into the court, and
Mhm.
it didn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And this went on for years for you.
Yes, it did. It all started July 18th, 2005, when I was falsely arrested, removed from my home by two London police in Ontario, Canada. They just literally knocked on the door. Two of my children opened it. They walked in and tried to cuff me, but because I was a disabled mom with a lot of medical braces on, they couldn't put anything on me and stated,
Mhm.
"Well, I guess we ain't cuffing you," and
Mhm.
ended up taking me to the car, the police car,
Mhm.
to take me in prison after they ripped me out of my 15-year-old's arms. Ah, my little girl and my 18-year-old boy.
Mm.
It was horrific. I felt like I was going through a war zone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
I obeyed the police officers.
Mhm.
Um, Due to trauma, I was not
Mhm.
quick at reacting. They took advantage of it
Mhm.
and put me in the police car. And I said, "Well, why aren't you taking him? Why are you just taking me?" After telling them the story.
Mhm.
And then one of the officers said, "Just be grateful we're taking you to the cells and not the morgue." So,
Whoa.
yeah, so I ended up going to jail that night. Um, but on the way, I said, "How long am I staying?" I thought I was coming home. I thought they were just taking me to question me.
Mhm.
And he says, "Oh, you're not." I said, "What do you mean I'm not?" He says, "Well, you're never going back to that house. It's not yours anymore." And I'm thinking, "Well, how do you
Mm.
know? Well, what do
Mhm.
you know that I don't know, right?"
Right.
So, anyways, I said, "Well, my meds are in the cupboard, in the kitchen, in my home. So if I'm not coming back, I want my meds."
Mhm.
But at the time, I wasn't taking the meds. I was just worried about my children taking it. I
Oh,
mean, what they
yes.
witnessed at that time, I think any child who had the option of opening a cupboard and seeing these pain pills in there that, they were given to me because of the accident I had, but I only took them for, a short time, a day or two, just to numb the pain so I could move on. I'm very strong that way. And obviously, coming along 17 years, it's really shows on me that
Mhm.
they couldn't put me down. I was so down by going to jail that you can't go any downer, right?
Mhm.
So I lost my home, my children. But anyways, when they took me back to the house to go get my meds, I asked them for my passport too, and I was accused of having the children's passports and their citizenships, and the police wanted it. And I said, "I don't have it." I said, "You just took me out of my home. Well, look, strip me." I said,
Mhm.
"How would I have it? I'm not there." So when we went back, I said, "Now ask him for my passport." This is the ex, right? I said to the police, "Ask him for my passport because I need it. I'm not
Mhm.
leaving without it." Police asked them 3 times after accusing me of having them. And this is why I'm going to prison or jail, whatever you call it.
Mhm.
To me, it's prison, no matter what, because they were going to condemn me for 15 years. So I'm seeing prison, and that was the most harmful memory
Mhm.
ever.
Mhm.
The picture as a loving mom doing everything I did for my kids,
Mhm.
knowing that I'm going to prison, to jail
And
for
with
what?
what charges, you know?
Exactly. So when we got to the house and they asked him 3 times, the third time I could see him pulling it out of his jacket pocket, my
Mhm.
passport, the kids, stuff for everything, citizenships were all attached to it.
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, wait a minute," as the police handed me one. I said, "There's two. I want that one too." So he had the second one as well. So he had um my passports in his possession, three of the kids and two of mine. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, wow, isn't that a sign right there, guys?
Mhm.
Like, really? He
Mhm.
lied to you and you're still taking me? You had the
Mhm.
option and the opportunity to settle it right there, the police officers. But no, they put me back in the car, took me to London, Essex Detention County Jail, whatever you call that thing that was so decrepit
Mhm.
that they couldn't keep people in there. But here I was sleeping on a cement slab, 3 feet high, and I think it was 4 feet long. And they threw me a blanket that was so covered in vomit. I
Mm.
was so disgusted in them. Like the police, if they had to be put in that situation, they would cry, they would scream and kick and shout,
Mhm.
and yet here as a disabled mom, I'm not preaching that I was disabled, but I was,
Mhm.
at the time, and
Mhm.
I'm finding my way out of it to get better. So, then the next day I got bailed out, uh, and it was I had such a spiritual event that happened in the jail cells when I woke up, as the police officer literally took the coffee can cup, and rolled it across the bars. Get up! It's 5:55," he says. "What are you taking your coffee?" And as I was already sitting up when he did that,
Mhm.
he saw me because I couldn't sleep. I sat up all
Mhm.
night. A little hand reached over on my shoulder, and I turned and I literally saw my daughter that passed
Mm.
in 1986 from the Chernobyl, and there was a young man that was holding her which happened to be, my mom thought it was my brother that passed in 1957
Mhm.
when she came from Hungary during the revolution. And my brother was born in New York City, but died, and
Mhm.
then ended up being buried 10 days later in New Jersey. But never my mom got to see the body. So we don't
Mhm.
even think that my brother is dead, that they may have trafficked our brother at that
Mhm.
time. And so they gave us a fake tombstone. There was no name on the boy's name. But, anyways, I went through my mom's trauma vicariously through my own children,
Mhm.
doing the exact same thing. And they were taking children then in 1932, was it? Or 1944 was when the war broke out, and Hitler was going on the doors looking for the children, putting them parents into concentration camps and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
my mom was 7 years old watching all this. So we
Mhm.
grew up hearing the stories, and
Mhm.
call me old fashioned, but this is how I learned history, with being there in real life 25 years later. I went to Germany with my ex-husband overseas with the military. So I got to see it visually. And
Mhm.
when I was there, I felt the screams, the cries. I smelt the burnt bodies.
Mhm.
I saw children screaming.
Mhm.
So when I go back to my own situation at the door, that's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
They're ripping my children from my arms. So I'm living something that I should not have been living. And
Mhm.
now my children are living it, and they're going to
Mhm.
live it for the rest of their life. This is, they've been so traumatized. And if they're strong like me, which I'm one day strong, one day a weak, we all
Mhm.
go through it. We have tears. This is
Mhm.
why we need to find therapists that believe in us.
Mhm.
We need to find lawyers that believe in us.
Mhm.
Judges need to be more
Mhm.
empathetic,
Mhm.
because if they haven't lived that kind of life, how would
Mhm.
they know what a alienated parent is going through? And this trauma is truly real. It's worse than living out in the battlefield, because the battlefield you can leave behind,
Mhm.
but the home life is there. You need to carry on every single day.
Mhm.
And whether you are with your children or without your children, these narcissist psychopaths will put you in arm's way of everybody, anybody, any kind of help, any kind of support. And if what I want people to understand, that if they're in that situation, there is help. We can get help. And if you need private consultations and stuff like that, us advocates out there are here for you.
Mhm.
We understand what you're going through. We know better. We can guide you. We're not
Mhm.
therapists, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers, but we know where to go because we've been through that every step of the
Mhm.
way. And for me to be in this situation 17 years later, to be brought back to this trial, which I'm
Mhm.
now going to get back to, was the worst court abuse anybody can go through. There
Mm.
was absolutely no reason for this. All it
Mhm.
was a change of motion. Everybody falls into a different situation. I understand that. But my ex-husband, he had the assets. He only found out I was dating a man, and he stopped my support payments. And it was right on. I knew everything was happening in the last 4 years. So because I was moving on now without him for, what was it at the time, 13 years,
Mhm.
saw that I was single. I was, playing my saxophone, raising awareness for mental health, parental alienation,
Mhm.
domestic violence, and for all murdered victims, because my own brother got murdered in between. And my
Mhm.
children were never allowed to come to the funerals of their grandfather, their uncle, any kind of events they weren't allowed to come to. So when I was brought back to this trial, he stated that I wanted nothing to do with my children as well all these years. So now they're seeking child support at 34, 32, and 31. Now, where were these children for 17 years? I begged them, I wrote them, I asked their lawyer over and over for phone numbers, addresses, emails for every event that happened in our family over the
Mhm.
17 years. And what really blew me away was the fact that it was grandma's 90th birthday that they haven't seen. So I emailed my lawyer to his lawyer, and his lawyer's reply, I stated that in the other podcast, but his reply was that he
Mhm.
didn't have the information. And I'm thinking, you know what? When this trial was over, I truly saw that these two men, my ex, because I stopped the court, I stopped the trial, I gave them an offer, they took it as quickly as could be. But during the trial, I was slandered so bad that I'm thinking, wow. But the glow, the glee, the thrill they got out of watching my face
Mhm.
is the reaction that turns them into these monsters.
Mhm.
So here I'm looking at them through Zoom, and is as close as we are right now. You
Mhm.
don't miss anything. So I watched this lawyer have my children trash me for 5 days, two for the father, three for the children,
Mhm.
which was really devastating because it was not just 3 days, it was 3 full days from 10 in the morning till 4:30, 5 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
How much can they, if I was that bad, why didn't somebody come rescue them then?
Mhm.
You know? And you waited 18 years to
Like,
say
why
this?
now? Why
Why
now?
now? And then 17 years later, say, I wanted nothing to do with you, but you guys were the ones that told the police that, yeah, you heard me say this, which never happened because one of them was never there.
Mhm.
That is the second, the 18-year-old said he heard mumbling. He was up in his bedroom. And the 16-year-old was with the father. He took her out of the house because he told the police that he feared their lives and took them all out. But yet a 15 and an 18-year-old opened the door for the police and allowed them in to take me away. So here these kids are on the stand and they didn't know what to say anymore because they contradicted everything that they had said, and their affidavits that were put in 2005 were Justice Taylor. I'm going to out them. This is something that we all need to know. But um, Justice Taylor stated that he was a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar and had no doubt he set me up. But he gets the house and kids because the affidavits that these children wrote. My 18-year-old boy became a psychiatrist
Mhm.
affidavit at 18. And I'm thinking, wow, boy, you couldn't even, take out the garbage without
Mhm.
being mentally able to do it without cognitive thinking, but yet all these psychological terms and everything. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're
Mhm.
still a child. So I
Mhm.
knew that was his writing. And then the other one said that if I had to go with my mom, I'd run away. I thought, wow, she was the one that came to me that morning and woke up at 7:30 in the morning and laid down in my lap. And
Mhm.
I said, oh, I said, you're up early it was this July 18th, no school. I said, you're up early. I
Mhm.
said, what's up? She says, well, I don't feel good. And I said to her, I said, what's up? So we bonded. I had my coffee while she laid in my lap and I'm brushing her hair to only that's 7:30 in the morning. By 5 o'clock that night, actually 5:35, dad came home and took her out of the house, and they called 911 from the house, and she feared my life. And I'm thinking, I just finished taking her shopping, to buy a bra. Bank accounts
Mhm.
were shut down. We had no money.
Hmm.
So it was pre-planned, and the judge knew it.
Mhm.
In At that time, December 23rd, 2005, he literally stated that he's had me set up. So when we went to this trial, the kids didn't know how to put the story back into place. So they made up new lies that I was having an affair with an 18-year-old boy, and my daughter, the 31-year-old, walked away from the trial. Her last words were that something going on with the 18-year-old boy. This is like 17 years later, and I'm thinking, what? Anyway, she was
Mm.
laughing. So if a judge didn't see the trauma that these kids are going through, because there are people that have to laugh in order to handle their trauma. And I'm
Mhm.
one of them. So I know she took that trade on. So she was nervous, she was upset, she was being coerced to say things.
Mhm.
So this lawyer that they had, all four of them, was egging the kids on to say things, pushing them. And because it was on Zoom, but what I did, I meant to say that to when they were trashing me, I thought, you know what? You don't deserve to look at me.
Oh.
So I shut the camera off,
Mhm.
because the first couple days the court shut the camera off. They wouldn't let me show my face. So I thought, what's up with that? Every time I clicked it on
Mhm.
to see my kids or whatever, it would shut back off.
Hmm.
So the ex, I thought, you know what, I'm going to shut the camera off. So I sat back and just watched the reaction, and it was quite devastating to see my son in a Navy uniform at 34 years old. He's no longer a boy, but
Mhm.
he was that boy when he was 18 in that uniform, bad mouthing his mom, and everything he said was something that he did or the father did. They were projecting it onto me, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how do I correct this? I mean, and it was things that never happened. And
Mhm.
then the sisters came on, but he only said two things. The boy said two things. So when his sister came on, they embellished and said that I beat this boy every single day and they watched me. But yet the boy only, as the judge, our lawyers badgering him to say how I did it. And,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, wow. And what else? What else? What else? What else? So I had to email my lawyer
Mm.
and ask him to please tell the judge to stop this, and to
Mhm.
tell his lawyer to stop badgering my kids. This is for support payments. These kids
Mhm.
should not be there.
Right.
So when
Right.
when the girls were saying that they watched me beat this boy daily, and the other one, the 16-year-old, said I beat her, but the 31-year-old, well, the 16-year-old is now 33, and the 15-year-old is now 31. But
Mm.
she said in this trial that she never got beaten. But yet, 17 years ago, I did. I beat them all. They watched
Mm.
each other get beaten. And I'm thinking, oh, this is crazy. So the stories are all changing. And the language
Mhm.
that I stated back then to the judge, I said, that's not my kids talking. That's their
Mm.
father, you know? So a lot of parents see that in their kids when the kids they write to them, or they reject them
Mhm.
after the divorce. Well, this is what happens when they're adults. Now for 17 years this pattern made them worse and worse and worse, where my 18-year-old boy was the most sweetest boy to me, turned psychotic on
Mhm.
Zoom, literally. And I did a video with Sam Vaknin just the day before, and I asked him if my children were brought back in the trial, because I had literally asked the conference judge to not put them on. She was picking the witnesses,
Mhm.
but she picked my three kids to protect the father, but I couldn't pick anybody to protect me, which was really, really odd. And I'm thinking, wow, like, what am I getting into?
Mhm.
All this
Mhm.
before parents, you know? So Once I went to the trial hearing,
Mm.
it was the same judge. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, you picked the witnesses and now you're the judge for the trial. And isn't this contradicting the whole process? Like, what are you, the one man show? Why
Mhm.
didn't I have this one man show 17 years ago? I went through so many judges, so
Mm.
many that were passed on, passed on, passed on. And everything that I was accused of back then got brought back up now, but in a different twist. So
Mhm.
you can see that these kids are struggling mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically because their bodies were so, they should never have been that type. They seem like they have body dysmorphia, that they're not growing properly. Their brains are not catching up to the body, and the body's growing slowly but outwardly,
Mhm.
and they're struggling to even speak properly. There was no respect from them to the judge. And I'm thinking, kids, you were raised better than that. I thought when you go to a trial, it's yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, or yes, sir, no, sir. But these
Mhm.
kids, it's like their dad. Yep, yep, yep. I mean, what is that? That's a
Mhm.
lack of disrespect to authority. So
Right.
I saw the narcissism in my children at that
Mhm.
time, that their father, it projected onto me when I was 18. I saw all this growing, trying to get away from him all those years because I knew, I saw, and it's the God's truth. I even wrote about it
Mhm.
45 years ago. And I never thought it would ever come to light that what I wrote about would be here today.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
it's now going to be in my book, Journey of Love. Now I can continue finishing my book because now the trial's over, so I could end it, um,
Mhm.
with all that had been thrown back at me over these years. After 17 years, I got a new gift every year, every
Mm.
year, every year. I got a gift from him, from the ex, and it was a piece of my history, which was something that, wow, it truly put perspective into domestic violence through
Mhm.
parental alienation. Because it, honest to God, if I read those letters today, it'd be like it happened yesterday.
Mhm.
Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed in a narcissistic, psychopathic personality. Once they get a hold of you, you are bound to them for the rest of your life.
Oh,
And
yes. I've also read that with this narcissism, they get worse with age.
they do, because then they bring on the children. The children have to suffer for them. The children are
Mhm.
sacrificing their life for an abuser, because that's no different than, like, look at Ted Bundy, how he sucked in all those women,
Mhm.
his charm, his charisma, and they all
Mhm.
bowed down to him. And not that my ex-husband was, gorgeous, because they all say, oh, you only go for the looks. Well, I didn't go for the looks.
Mm.
I went to heal. I was
Mhm.
there to heal him. And even
Mm.
though I tried to get away, it didn't work. It's like I got sucked into a cult with him and his
Mhm.
mother, because every time I tried to get away, the excuse was from him that sucked me in was, I'm going to commit suicide. I can't live without you. He joined the army. He wrote letters saying the exact same thing. The only thing that he changed was the wording that I got to get out of this place because I'm going to commit suicide here. So it was like he was rushing me into marrying him to make up for what he did 3 years prior to me.
Mhm.
And I got sucked in by his letters,
Mm.
the way he worded things. So the charm, I didn't see his face. I didn't see the looks. I put looks aside. I took what was written in this letter by heart. So, um, kids know. the same feeling by a loving parent. We speak with our heart,
Mhm.
right? So, or we love by our hearts. We do things by our hearts. We do things passionately. Whereas these narcissists, they could only see someone doing it and they
Mhm.
write about it. And he didn't mean anything. The only thing he did, I know what he meant now after 45 years of reading some of the words was, I'm never going to let you go. Those are his words. Those are his writings. So I'm really grateful that,
Mhm.
it was a learning experience
Mhm.
that got me through this. Um, my music got me through this. And the fact that when the judge granted my ex-husband to take the kids, because everything was left up to the kids, it's in the discretion of the kids, only if the kids want to have contact with the parent, only if the kids want to take the phone call, only it's up to the children, he said over and over in the court documents. Wait a minute here, what happened to my rights as a
Mhm.
human? Where is, where is it that I don't get to voice myself?
Mhm.
So the judge was wrong. Everything he did was wrong.
Mhm.
So when I brought it back to this trial, this new judge did not want it in to
Mhm.
be submitted. And I'm thinking, why? Because one judge is going to be condemned.
Mhm.
So this new judge, what she watched was a horror show. And she
Mhm.
sat there with her arms folded. And when I questioned a lot of it and wanted to submit things, she threw herself back into the chair like a narcissist would, like a 2-year-old tantrum, and sat there thinking about it. And it kind of worried me because I
Mhm.
thought, you know what? She put my lawyer down
Mm.
and allowed his lawyer to whatever. And the thing was too, during the conference when she was picking the witnesses and my ex said used to put the 3 kids in, the judge literally said, well, they better have something different to say. Sure enough. And
Mhm.
she says they only get 30 minutes. They got from 10 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon, sometimes 5, to sit there and trash me beyond control. And so what made me realize that the only way I could help my kids is stop this trial, because had I continued, and there's no way they couldn't see this now. There was no
Mhm.
way. But my children would have been charged with perjury. My son in a
Mm.
Navy uniform would have been shamed
Mhm.
so bad because he lied. He was forced to lie. The lawyer lied for him. The father lied for him. The father even said, the judge asked, why didn't you come home when your wife needed you, when Mary needed you? Why did you not come home? Because he was gone for 12 months. And he said, because I didn't think she needed me. And the judge says, well, she called you.
Mhm.
Why didn't you come home? And he rolled his eyes. He rolled his eyes. And then he told one of the daughters, because I put them in boarding school. I was on the anti-bullying moms team because I was bullied by my ex-husband. He was the
Mhm.
biggest bully in school. I had to be bullied to be married to him. I had to be bullied to
Mhm.
stay with him. I had to be bullied to to have children, like literally bullied, where he used the kids. So this
Mhm.
pattern of bulliness brought me to my children being bullied at school. But it turned out my own children were bullying because they learned it from the father. And this is
Mhm.
how children become bullies, domestic violent offenders. But anyways, my daughter was being bullied. So 2 of the kids, one got suspended and the other one ended up staying in school. because they passed a paper around school on my daughter's death plan. They literally planned it out on paper, passed it around the school, the class, and the teacher got a hold of it. It was a big deal. I took it to the school board because my daughter for 2 months didn't want to go to school.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, if they're not going to take that other child out of the school, I'm going to take her, my own daughter, and put her into another school that her choice. But her sister's going with her. So because that one was scared, she was only in grade 8, but she was scared to be bullied. She was going to be bullied because, they talk social media. It just started back then in 2004, them emailing and
Mhm.
stuff. MySpace it was.
Oh,
So they
yes.
were just, learning how to do all this. So I saw the messages. They left them on their, either printed it out, left it on the floor, I pick it up, and I'm reading all these things. So the youngest was scared to go to school the next following September.
Hmm.
And this is happening in June when my other one got the death threat passed on.
Mhm.
Not June, April. And by June, I literally had to put my foot down and we made appointments to see boarding schools.
Mhm.
So that time when I got her into the boarding school, I told the dad, we need to put her into a private school so she could get help. She's terrified. You got to come home. You got to help. He told the judge there was
Mm.
absolutely nothing wrong with our marriage. Nothing. So why are you not coming home for your children then? So
Mhm.
that's why
Mhm.
the judge says, well, why didn't you come home when Mary
Mhm.
needed you the most? So when I told him that my daughter was suffering trauma from having her death plan on and didn't want to go to school, I have to put her somewhere. And if you're not going to come home, I'm going to do this. And I told him it's going to cost me $35,000.
Mm.
It cost me 90 for two. But these girls were always together, protecting each other. My boy too. They were never separated. Today they don't even talk. Because they've been brainwashed against each other. But that 16-year-old at that time got on the phone with dad because I told her, talk to your dad. He wants to say hi to all you kids. So we all had our own phones. It was still the normal phone, no cell phone at the time. There was cell phone, but we
Mhm.
didn't use it to call you when he called in Europe. But anyways, I overheard him tell my daughter once she was in boarding school. Now this was all already been there 2 months. He told her to cry suicide so she can get kicked out and then we'd get the money back. And I thought, oh dear God. I said, how could you say that to your daughter? And it's winter, it's middle of winter. I said, how could you say that? I said, it may have worked on you. I got sucked in to stay with you, but don't do that to the kids, especially when
Mhm.
they're alone with me. So got off the phone right away. I told my daughter, I said, don't do anything rash. That was so wrong of your dad to do that. I'm on the bullying team. This is, so I quickly emailed Karina, that was one of the anti-bullying moms, quickly
Mhm.
emailed her, told her what happened. I emailed the school because this was a Saturday night. They were going the next day to boarding school and I had a driver take them. It
Mhm.
was 5 hours away.
Mhm.
So when she got to the boarding school that Sunday, the school had already had an email from me by the time they got there. So they knew. The next morning I get a phone call that Monday morning. You're 10 o'clock in the morning, middle of a storm. They shut down all of London roads all the way to Windsor. It couldn't get through anywhere. That my
Mm.
daughter tried suicide and they put her into Kawartha's emergency hospital for 72 hours and wanted me to come. So I tried. I couldn't. I had a limo driver at the time because I couldn't sit. I had spinal cord damage really bad.
Mm.
And we couldn't get through. So I contacted the hospital and told them. So they kept her there while the
Mhm.
roads were clear. And it took us the third day to get there because we weren't going anywhere. We got her and I took her right to a therapist that we were seeing before the dad came home.
Mhm.
Um, it was because of the car insurance that made us go to therapy. It wasn't because we were having conflict, but I'm glad they did. They took care of us. It's the only
Mhm.
support I got being with the military. All those years, there was nobody to help me. It took my car accidents to bring to fruition that this family was suffering
Mhm.
because of absence of a father. And it wasn't because of the accident. Why would my children suffer because of the car accidents? They weren't in the accidents. It was just me,
Mhm.
right? And physically, I kept myself fit. I was in a gym for 30 something years. So my body was, you know, um, trying to get better and better and better. And as I got better, my ex didn't like it when he came home. He wanted me crawling on the floor dead
Mhm.
so that he could get all the insurance money. I was worth more dead than alive to him. So that's what brought back the false arrest, where he thought for sure that would put me to the edge and
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
commit suicide. He was drugging my drinks at that time when he came home. Finally,
Mhm.
he came home in 2004. It was just 2 days after Christmas, 3 days after Christmas, he came home after a year being gone.
Mhm.
So when he came home, he was scheming up all these things. And so when the kids learned all his abusive behaviors, they implemented them all onto me while he was gone. So they were abusing me by proxy.
Mhm.
But I always was a step ahead and I got them help. I went to my doctors, my therapists, and I told them, you know, so my one lawyer convinced me that it's time for you to get a divorce because he's going to kill you.
Mhm.
I did. I filed for a divorce. He came home from Germany the second time. But when I filed for a divorce, then he says, well, wait till I get back from this 8 week course, or not course, but a job for 8 more weeks. And we'll talk about it. We'll go to therapy. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't you go to therapy for 24 years with me before? I had to
Mhm.
put up with alcoholism, his drug abuse to steroids. He was extremely violent, so
Mhm.
violent that no man could come near me because he would
Mhm.
beat the crap out of them. He hurt the children,
Mhm.
and yet he brings me to court and
Mhm.
using the children to say I did all that. It just goes to show that he's a desperate human that was damaged himself.
Mhm.
And he doesn't know how to go about it because that's how he learned how to get attention from his own mother. And I saw all that. I
Mhm.
knew him. I met him at 18, but I knew him 2 years prior, and I had no idea that was the same man. My girlfriend was going out with him,
Mhm.
and she kept mentioning a name, but it didn't connect because for 2 years I heard him as a totally different name. The first name was right, but not the last name. So 2 years later, I meet this man, this 18-year-old he was. We were both 18. He had already turned 18. I was going to be 18.
Mhm.
And different name. So I didn't
Mhm.
put two and two together. But when
Mhm.
my girlfriend was telling me for 2 years he was abusing her, I kept saying, dump him. Why
Mhm.
would you
Mhm.
want someone like that? And then there was this other one she was like, so I said, stay with the other one. But he's too skinny. The other one's an athlete. I said, well, you can't have both.
Uh-huh.
A good shape, bad body,
Yeah.
a loving heart compared to a psychopath. Because literally
Mhm.
that's what I called him to my girlfriend when I was 16 years old. So when I
Mm.
met him, when I was 18, I had to change schools because I went from Catholic to public. And I met him, but I didn't know it was the same guy. No clue, no clue. And then when I got married, we moved in together and we amalgamated our belongings.
Mhm.
And I found a photo album, and my best friend was in it. And I said to him, "What are you doing with her pictures in your album? Who?"
Mhm.
And I said her name. I don't want to say it, but I said her name, and he goes, "You ever stupid?" He goes, "You are the reason I lost her." He says, "It's all your fault." And I'm thinking, what? What are you talking about? And then it hit me. Oh
Mm.
my God, I kept her away from him and I married him?
Oh, no.
How? I don't even know how to explain myself with that one because it is just so crazy
Mhm.
that I was, wow, I don't even know how to say it. So,
Mhm.
anyways, he had all these pictures of her, and now I knew why she didn't come to my wedding. I invited
Mhm.
her, didn't come to showers. She never ever told me. And had I had known that was the same person, I think I would have, because I tried to run down the aisle when I got married.
Mhm.
My father and his uncle dragged me out of the car. I broke all my nails off. Just had my nails done. Never had fake nails before, but bing, 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 bing. They all came
Mhm.
off, screaming,
Mhm.
kicking. I'm not marrying him. I'm not marrying him. Um, I was like going to marry somebody else, but it all came back to the point where this judge asked him about our earlier life,
Mhm.
and he denied everything. He denied ever everything. He even denied our dead baby, our dead
Mm.
child, the firstborn. He denied her, never even mentioned her. You know, he lied so much in this trial,
Mhm.
so much that I all I could see in the judge's eyes, if you believe this man, there's something wrong. Because
Mm.
if I get charged $175,000 to lose this court case,
Mhm.
there's no way you're going to get it out of me.
Mm.
Um, I would have had to pay 300,000 for the kids. I would have had to pay back support payments for 12 years. I would have been sued for more. I would have had to pay his $101,000
Oh my
taxes.
god.
And
Oh
I
my
had
god.
already paid taxes in 2004, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, you haven't even paid off the debt from 2004 and 5 that I
Mhm.
still had to pay, because there was over $219,000 that I was ordered to pay then. So the
Mhm.
court took all my money. So now if I'm thinking I got to do something about this trial. I need to stop this because
Mhm.
I could see the money, cha-ching, 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 rolling in the judge's eyes, in the lawyer's eyes. My lawyer was legal aid, so it's
Mhm.
the community that's paying my lawyer fees. It wasn't
Right.
me, it was taxpayers. So
Mhm.
now taxpayers have to realize that what I went through was abuse. It was
Mhm.
pure abuse to sit there and be bashed by a lawyer that knew that parental alienation is child abuse, but he literally continued over and over and over to coach these children. So, kudos to all those lawyers, especially mine, that he had to talk to my kids, question them like they were 2 year olds.
Oh.
That's how he had to talk to them because mentally that's all they are,
Mhm.
right? They're so
Right.
brain damaged that they can fly off just like that, go into
Mhm.
tears. They blame me for failed relationships. They blame me for their lack of social skills. They blame me for everything that they possibly could. I took notes, listening to them, and it's sad that I had to take notes about my own children during
Mhm.
this trial. But had I not taken notes, I would not have believed that my ears are literally hearing this. And
Mhm.
it's on Zoom, so it's all recorded. And the fact of it being public, anybody can go in and see this trial. So I'm now going to be a case study on what not to do. So my plan is to go in and use that as an educational tool for people to understand that these kids are going to be like this even worse, because my ex-husband, he went from a bully to a street fighter, to a domestic violence offender, to, wow, if I say these words, I'm sure the Army's going to be running down my throat,
Mhm.
because there have been women that were ended up killing their spouses because they were abused by the units that my ex-husband dealt with
Mhm.
over the years. And
Mhm.
it's people are traumatized by power,
Mhm.
control, greed, and there's no reason for it, because we're
Mm-mm.
all going to end up in the same place. We're all going to be buried in a box, or end up with that hot body that we always wanted and get cremated. you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
it's, it's no different. We can't take our money with us, we can't take the power with us, and the only power there is in God, that's going to
Mhm.
say, okay, you were an asshole all that time to this person, so I think I'm going to send you to hell. This is where Satan comes in, and Satan's still trying to get up to heaven to be God.
Mhm.
But these people, these narcissists, psychopaths, will never be God, because God never condemns people to the
Mhm.
point as these narcissists do. They will bring us to the ground level and crawl like a dog with a leash around our throats. We
Mhm.
walked
Mhm.
on eggshells all those years. I mean, 45 years. I walked on eggshells and I couldn't get away. But thinking back to that police officer that said, be grateful we're taking you to the cells and not the morgue. I mean, yeah, I got put in for 17 years.
Mhm.
And through all that process, the first 3 years of it, my doctor said, we're going to give you like 3 years if you make it. You're
Mhm.
not going to survive. You are so, like, everything started shutting down, my liver, my kidney,
Mm.
my heart. As I'm fighting my body to get better, my organs were shutting down, fighting parental alienation, the
Mhm.
pain, the trauma, the grief, and then to be brought back 17 years later and say I didn't want anything to do with my kids. Well, I've been out there advocating from the day I came out of
Mhm.
prison. And then a week later, I got rearrested and went again. But the funny thing was, too, when I got arrested the first time,
Mhm.
July 18th, I got arrested the second time, July 27th, which was my birthday. So they'll
Mhm.
ruin every good day of your
Oh,
life for
yeah,
the
they have
rest of
that
your
down
life.
pat. Yes, they
Yeah.
do.
So, I did good, because I have a memory that I felt like Bonnie and Clyde, because the police were putting out roadblocks for me to turn myself in, and I saw the roadblocks. So I went around another way, and I had 2 hour chase. And it wasn't that they were chasing me, I was dodging them. So
Mhm.
I said, no, you're not going to take me before my curfew's over. It's my birthday.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's when it wasn't a good memory, but it was
Mhm.
something that I had to put my foot down and say, I'll go when I'm ready, because I wasn't ready at that time. I probably would have freaked out
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
I had been faced with a police officer again. So I took my time to ease myself into them and be calm.
Mhm.
So when I got arrested on July 27th, August 23rd, those charges were dropped.
Huh.
It was breach. But what happened to the July 18th one? It didn't get dropped. It got brought to a trial on November 7th, 2005. So
Mhm.
they dropped the one, but they didn't drop the other. That How could I be breaking breach if the first one didn't happen? And why would they drop it if I broke breach? So it just
Mhm.
didn't make sense. So the judge on December 23rd, 2005, knew they were taken care of. The charges were taken care of because I won the November 7th one. He, the ex was in a witness protection room, so the speaker didn't go off. And the judge called his name. 10 minutes. I'm sitting there, la di da, yeah, good to do. Where are you?
Mhm.
With my 3 children, because they feared their lives in a courthouse.
Oh.
I'm there with my lawyer. What was I going to do? But anyways, they didn't hear it. And I think it's going back to my baby Angel, when that touched my shoulder in jail. She says, you're going to be all right, Mom. You're going to be all right. As a
Mhm.
tear fell, she wiped it. So going
Mhm.
back to the trial now, I see the child guiding me because he took the other three away
Mhm.
to fight for them. As hard as I fought for the first one, I went through three surgeries with the first one to save her. He didn't want her at all.
Mm.
And he told me, if I don't kill it, he will leave me penniless and no support by him
Mhm.
or the military for the rest of our lives. That was 1986. I had three children
Mm.
after, and this is how he treated me all those years. That
Mhm.
if I leave him, if I don't abide by his rules, it's so devastating. So
Mhm.
I literally shut the trial down, gave him an offer, and when it
Mhm.
came to signing my day to speak finally, I didn't think I was going to be there because my lawyer says, okay, you made the offer, they accepted it. The, his lawyer and my lawyer were going to talk to the judge. So I thought, okay, I got the day off. I'm in the bank doing my banking, and I get a call. Oh, did I not send you an email? I said, for what? He goes, the trial. I said, well, you told me I didn't have to. I want you there, he says. So I went right
Oh.
on. So the
Mhm.
bank found me a room, and I did the Zoom trial in a court bank as I'm signing papers. The lawyer's signing papers to give to the judge the endorsements, right?
Mhm.
They're doing the endorsements. So I'm sitting there for 10 minutes. Um, After waiting about an hour, she wanted to make sure that I was there, and then went and did the signing of papers, and we had to come back in an hour. So I'm sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden she comes back
Mhm.
and she read the endorsement, and then she wished me well. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking, wish me well?
Mhm.
You just put me through hell and you wish me well? That's all you got to say? But I just, all I could say was, thank you.
Mhm.
That's all I could say. I couldn't say anything else. Nothing else would come out of my mouth. But what I observed was the fact that the ex wasn't there. Why? Because he was
Mhm.
mortified. He
Mhm.
didn't get what he wanted.
Mhm.
He ended up paying for everything. The children didn't get the child support that should have been theirs
Mhm.
in 2005. But the
Mhm.
children were 18. So what child support was I going to pay now?
Right.
So they brought me back all those years. So they thought they can collect on me, but they shouldn't have been able to do that. And the other part was that the lawyer that watched my face as those children and my ex for 5 days trashed me sat there with glee, his eyes wide open to see my
Mhm.
reaction. But that's why I shut the camera off. But
What a
this time,
sadist.
yeah, but this time they zoomed in on him and me, and his head was down the whole time. He could not look up, and he's pretending to write. He wasn't writing. There was nothing
Mm-mm.
for him to write. Like, what was he writing? He was just too embarrassed because
Mhm.
they both lost. He came out because he still had to be paid.
Mhm.
The lawyer will always be, paid by the client, because I'm sure my ex-husband, it had to have been like a good chunk, 50,000. That could have gone into the kids' therapy, because what
Mhm.
I watched my children go through, what I got awarded, I willed it right back to the kids for help.
Mhm.
Because that's what a good parent does. I want my
Mhm.
children to get healthy.
Mhm.
I saw them on social media. They opened up their pages again just the other week,
Mhm.
and I saw them. And when I did comment nicely, happy birthday, I got shut down.
Mhm.
So they
Mhm.
only opened it to see my reaction to what went on. I mean, it was nothing to write home about. This was not a win for me. This was not a
Mhm.
win, but this was a shutdown for people to stop doing this to
Mhm.
a loving parent. You know, we could have settled this out of court, but The offer he gave me was like, no, that's not an offer. That's like another kick to the curb.
Mhm.
So when I defied it or denied it, it came to a trial. So I got blamed for it.
Mhm.
Well, am I not allowed to defend myself? And that's what I said to
Mm.
my lawyer. Why is he using my children? Why are the criminal charges coming back? Why are these false allegations coming back 17 years ago when I've
Mhm.
already been proved innocent? I got my fingerprints. Here's the mugshots. What's going on?
Mhm.
So they tried to bring me back and have me rearrested so that nobody would hear my story and listen to the truth. So
Mm.
when I saw them taking the offer and running with it,
Mhm.
it's just another coward's way of not taking accountability.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like I said, it wasn't a win for me because I still did not get to have my kids. I didn't get to have my say.
Mm.
I didn't get to say anything other than thank you,
Mhm.
my polite way of speaking to justice. I've been through justice systems for a long time now,
Mm.
um, due to deaths, due to accidents, divorce. It's just so horrible what we have to go through. We shouldn't have to feel scared to go to court. We shouldn't
Mhm.
have to be intimidated as if we were like scum of the earth.
Mhm.
So this is where in divorce court children should never be in, and it should just be the two parents. And if they've got a beef, take it to a marriage counselor, beef it out,
Right.
come to
Mhm.
court. Here's the assets, here's the split 50-50, but you're getting the kids equally 1 week, or 2 weeks, 2 weeks, depends on the situation of the parents. But
Mhm.
no parent should be able to bad mouth that other parent.
Mm.
And if they do, it's only because of fear.
Mhm.
They know they're going to end up losing the kids if they don't lie. And family court is the only court that you're allowed to lie in. And
Mhm.
that's a shame that
It
this is what
is.
we have to go through. And us parents that are speaking the truth are being condemned for it.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping this podcast can help other parents understand that the judges are no different than you and I. Just because they have a title, they really don't know what's going on in our lives, and we need to educate them. So if we can find advocates out there that have gone through this abuse, to help teach therapists to know what we're going through is real, to
Mhm.
teach doctors to know what we're going through is real. My own doctor went through the same thing. We had the same, you know,
Mm.
same
Mhm.
time. We were both accused by the same person, and it's he hasn't seen his kids as long as I have. So it could be judges, it could be a lawyer, it could be anybody. Grandparents are suffering out there as well. My
Mhm.
mom, 90, hasn't seen her grandkids in 17 years, and it's horrific how
Mhm.
families are split by these court systems. There's
Mhm.
absolutely no justice in the
Mm-mm.
family court system. They
Mm-mm.
give the abusers the ability to abuse, to hide,
Mhm.
to hide the fact that these judges are the biggest abusers because they're
Mhm.
allowing abusers to abuse. They're
Right. Right.
allowing lawyers to get away with abusing a good parent by accusing them of false allegations and running with it. If these lawyers don't have 100% proof of these allegations, it should never be brought in front of these judges because these judges will believe anything that's a lie
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
they've been conditioned that way as well. They go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases daily, yearly, for the rest of
Mhm.
their lives. They're being brainwashed too. I mean, to
Mhm.
believe
Mhm.
that an innocent parent is the abuser. Meanwhile, it's the abusive parent that brings in the revenue.
Oh.
So They're preying on each other, and I proved the fact that now my ex has to pay for everything is what's going to damage me for the rest of my life because he's not going to quit. I know him more than
Mhm.
anybody in the world on the fact that he holds grudges.
Mhm.
And had he, let go 17 years ago, I would have my kids. I
Mhm.
would still have that beautiful relationship that
Mm.
I had with them for 19 years of their first 19 years of their lives. I raised them with no problem.
Mhm.
I took them around the world. Every 4 years we moved. And the judge's excuse was he didn't want to uproot a 15, 17, and an 18-year-old. And I'm thinking, what? You don't want to uproot them, but yet they were uprooted all these other years, and I conditioned, made the um, process lovable,
Mhm.
fun, exciting. I took them back to their old posting to bring back their friends that they missed all those years, but yet
Mhm.
they can't come and see me. Um, that was so cruel of this
Mhm.
judge, and the fact that he gave the father the rights to raise these girls because my son was already 18. Once he got the access to the girls. The the 16-year-old, well, she was 17 now. The 17-year-old ran away, and I didn't know for 3 weeks. She did,
Mm.
and she never returned. But yet, I didn't get to help her. And then the
Mhm.
boy,
Mhm.
within 6 months, ran away to the Navy.
Hmm.
And that's how his father ran away from his mother, the same way. And I was there. I took
Mhm.
him to the train station that day
Mm.
in 1980, March 21st, when he joined the army because he wanted to get away from his mom and his stepdad. Stepdad was an alcoholic. Well, so was the my ex. So they
Mhm.
butted heads, two alcoholics in one house. But yet
Mm.
my kids called me the alcoholic, abusive mom in
So
courts, and
wrong.
yeah, and they've never seen me drink. I still don't
No.
drink, you know. So
Well, you know what?
yeah,
My friend wrote, his name is Kenneth Gottfried. He wrote the book, Child Abusers Wear Black Robes. And I just call them child abusers in black robes. It's just that's exactly what they are.
and I picture it with their staff, with the
Mhm.
hood over their heads. That's
Mhm.
Satan.
Yeah.
That is Satan. And you can't, because black and white, the devil or the angel, right?
Mhm.
And that's how these people see things. There's no in between. Because when the judge
Mm-mm.
asks him, how was your relationship all those 25 years? And he says, oh, perfect, perfect. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden overnight, I'm this, this, and this, and this, and this, and 5 days of it. So what they did to me,
Mm.
um, physically, I got sick. I had suffered heart attacks waiting because the judge
Mhm.
was supposed to put me back on the stand a week later. Never happened. Month
Oh, I'm
later,
so
never
sorry.
happened. April comes, never happened. June comes, a surprise happens, and my lawyer wasn't ready. We had a 12-hour notice. The trial was
Mhm.
going to continue. Thank God for my lawyer. No, didn't. But the judge blamed me for it. She blamed me. So
Mm.
anything that fell apart in this trial, we got blamed, not
Mhm.
them. She even blamed me and my lawyer for taking up all those 5 days in the trial. Meanwhile, I didn't even get to go on the stand. How did I take up these 5 days?
Mhm.
His lawyer took 2 days with the ex. The ex had to be brought back third day to be re-questioned. The children each had a day, 1, 2, 3, and I took it up. So when my lawyer went to question him, he was rushed. He was literally rushed. That time's running out. Time's running out. So they were hurting his process.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. And I remember him asking me just before the trial, he says, do you think the judge plays by the book?
Mhm.
I
No.
looked at him, I chuckled just like I'm chuckling now. I
Mhm,
I said, "What? Do you think she is?" I said, like, really?
mm,
So, he kinda put the fear in me, not the fear, but the common sense to say, "Mary, let's get out of this. It's only, um, a motion to change.
mhm,
How about we make an offer?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's the offer?" I took it upon him. They came back, they denied, they went lower, and I'm going, "I don't think so.
mhm,
Give me a break." And so I went right back to basically what my lawyer wanted to, thought that was a fair deal. And they took it because they
mhm,
knew that they got to stop playing games with me.
mhm.
And I'm so glad that God gave me the strength,
Oh,
because
yes.
17 years ago, I was trash to them. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. But now,
How wrong.
17 years later, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They even brought me to court accusing me of making money. Well, not accusing me, but saying that I'm making money through my saxophone, and they wanted half. Now, why would you want half? What, did you learn how to play the saxophone? Are you out there playing it? Why would I pay you half of the money? So this was brought into court because they saw me playing as a special guest.
Mm,
And special guests don't get paid. We all know that.
mhm,
It was just
mhm.
an honor to be there.
Yeah.
But as a special guest, they put down that that they deserve to get half the money, and I'm thinking, well, good luck getting that. Because
Definitely.
I'm only doing this to heal. This was my
Mhm,
healing process, and I never spoke to therapists in between until just a year or just before the trial. So I got to speak. The judge prolonged it for 9 months, so
mhm.
I got to see a therapist for 12 months and 9 full straight months of it to help me deal with this, because it was very traumatic to go through again. It's like I started
Again,
the divorce that day,
all over.
that
Yeah.
very same day. Only this time, my children were adults. They weren't children, but you know what? They
Mhm,
were still, in my eyes, 15, 17, and 18 is how they
mhm.
spoke. They were not adults. And this
Mm,
is why we have so many kids going out there shooting as adults.
mhm,
Domestic violence offenders, murderers, they're still children in those damaged minds.
mhm,
They cannot register things, and it's all because they've been either stripped from a parent was taken from them through violence.
mhm,
They hold grudges. My ex-husband held grudges on me for 45 years. And when he asked me the first time to go to the courthouse to change his name, I should have known then. I'm
mm.
18 years old. I should have known something was up when he says, "Can you come to I want you to come to the courthouse with me to change my name." And I'm going, "What?" He goes, "Well, if I change my name, my stepfather will stop abusing me." And I'm
Oh.
thinking, "Oh boy, this doesn't sound good." So I said no. I literally said no, walked away. Well, when I walked away, he pursued me every day until he had me. And when he had me, he abused me.
Mhm.
So, a
Yeah.
lesson learned through narcissistic abuse: narcissists can't take the no. Psychopaths definitely can't take no for an
Mm-mm.
answer. And they're very goal oriented. They don't care about the kids. Obviously, my ex didn't care about our children, because
Mhm.
he would have said to the judge in the trial, "Stop." He would have told his lawyer, "Stop." But no,
Mhm.
it took me to email my lawyer to tell his lawyer to stop. This was so abusive to these kids.
Mhm.
And I pray that the judge will not delete it. I was threatened if I recorded it or if I took pictures or whatever, I would be charged. but I was never read my rights for it.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, it was, I didn't take the stand.
Right.
I hadn't, she never said, "Mary, you can't do this," or "Mary," but they sent a letter. I didn't sign anything. So, what we
Yeah.
have out there, they'll never know, but I don't need to be that way because I know what I saw. My lawyer was there.
Mhm.
His staff was there. Other people were there. Court reporters were on the Zoom, and people saw what was going on in this trial.
Mhm. I'm so sorry you
Yeah.
went through that, and, you know, I'd like to have you back on my show again.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to. You're
Oh,
so
good.
great to talk to.
Yes, and I hope people learn from this, and I think they will. I think this is gonna help a lot of people, and I really appreciate you coming back on.
Thank you. Yes, I hope people understand that we are not the problem. It's the courts that are a problem, and we need to be loud. There's a millions. We are now, I believe I heard um, um, George wrote the other day,
Uh,
yesterday, that there's 18 billion alienated parents and children out there now.
mm,
When I was alienated in 2005, there was 22 million. Um, Up until 2 years ago, before COVID, there was 55 million. Now we're in the billions.
mhm.
How insane is that? I mean, these courts
Sad.
are making so much money, and yet
Mhm,
during COVID, nobody got to go to court. Everybody had to do Zoom.
mhm.
Where's the money? Where'd
Yeah.
the money go? Where is all this money going? Trudeau gave $464 million to the people in 2020.
Mm,
He bragged about it,
mm.
passing out all this money. Where did he get it from? Where did that money
Yeah.
come from? That's all dirty money,
Mhm,
used by for their own purpose. They used our children to
mhm,
make this profitable for them. The money's going to different countries, so the
mhm,
children are going to different countries. They're being extorted. They're being transported in
mhm,
crates. And, it's just such a sad, sad world. So parents need to be, as a community, we need the community to stand up for these parents that are being abused, because it's a mom, a
mhm.
dad, a grandparent. It could happen to anybody any
Oh,
second,
yes.
every second of the day.
Mhm.
Another case goes to court. So if we
Mhm,
can go find advocate teams like family conflict services, there are people out there that can help you.
mhm,
Advocates, we got paralegals. We don't need to go to these fancy lawyers that,
mhm.
are sucking $700 an hour out of us.
Right, right.
When you can get a paralegal
Mhm.
that's,
Well,
knows more and cares more.
you know, and I'm sure parents are gonna have questions, from all of this, like, how can they reach you?
Oh, they can reach me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I got a few Facebook pages. I will answer every messenger. I have Parent Alienation as child abuse page. Also, on YouTube, you can find me under Mary Kovacs. My email is Mary_Kovacs@hotmail.com. You could also find me on the Andy Marten's show. I am the executive producer of Real Talk on Parent Alienation and intimate partner violence. I host a Sunday and Wednesday night show with Nikki Ben CB and Andy Martens, and we bring guests on. I really
Mhm,
enjoyed having you on, and all the others, Dr. Roseman, Dr. Harmon,
mhm,
um, Brian Ludmer. We had Joe Goldberg. We had, so many people, Petra Dieter, Victim to Hero,
mhm,
so many people that are out there for these parents. And so we are a very educational tool out there. I'm also with Family Court Watch as an
Mhm.
advocate. I do parenting plans, access to what do you call it? Supervised visits. I've been
Mhm.
doing that since 2000 and wow, 10, I believe. I've had,
Mhm.
young children that I would go and help the parent and the grandparent together for a
Mhm.
kid. But now I will be probably advocating more going globally. I'll be traveling through the States, through
Mhm.
Canada, meeting up with other global domestic violence ambassadors. I'm planning on taking this further, higher up. I've gone to Karina Gould's office. I told her my story. The next step would be Trudeau. He's not
Mhm.
listening, but one day he will, because this story was very hard to believe that, after
Mhm.
17 years, I was taken back to court simply for
Mm.
money. My alienated children were
So
used
sad.
to continue this process. So um, it's you can find me basically anywhere. Sometimes you'll see me on the streets. I do
Mhm.
many events. I actually was going to do one this weekend, but I got sick. And I
Mhm.
need to take time to heal because I'm still,
Yes.
even though the trial ended on the 6th of September, it's been 14 days and I'm still being controlled because the signing of the court documents have not been abided by.
Mhm.
I'm still waiting, until then my own personal health will not be able to to be repaired
Mhm.
because I'm still being dragged through the court system.
Mhm.
So um until then, I pray that my ex gets help. He seriously needs help, and
Mhm.
I tried to help him, and I swear that his lawyer needs help because I
Oh,
even
yes.
questioned the
Yes.
fact before the trial. I said to my lawyer, it's curious to know his story
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
no human would do that to another child if they went through this abuse.
They're all
So,
doing it. They're
yeah,
all doing it. And
that's
this is why I
really,
gotta have you back on my show. So,
thank
hey,
you.
don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
Slam the Gavel's a podcast, help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Mary Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Mary Kovacs and other exciting guests here in the future. Thank you again, Mary.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you. I just want to say to my children out there that I love them very much and I will always love them. I've forgiven them. I've never held them accountable for the abuse that they went through because I went through it too. And I knew how
Mhm.
hard it was to get away. But I only had to stay to protect them, to have some kind of relationship with them. So
Mhm.
I just want them to know that one day they will have children, and I hope to God I could be part of their lives
Mhm.
like everybody else out there. So thank you,
Definitely.
Marion.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.